The richest man in the room pointed at the quiet woman and made everyone laugh. 3 hours later, that same room would fall completely silent, and the man who mocked her would wish he had never opened his mouth. The story began on a cold autumn evening in Seoul. Luxury cars rolled toward the Grand Sapphire Hotel for the city's biggest charity gala. Important business leaders stepped onto the red carpet as cameras flashed around them. At the center of it all stood Daniel Kang. Daniel owned one of the fastest-growing companies in the country. People admired his success, but feared his sharp tongue. Daniel believed money made him better than everyone else. Across the city, a quiet woman stepped off a bus, carrying a small envelope. Her name was Maya Johnson. She looked ordinary enough to disappear into any crowd. But inside her bag rested a secret worth billions. And before the night ended, that secret would change everything. Maya walked toward the hotel entrance as guests in designer clothes rushed past her. A security guard stepped in front of her and blocked her path. The guard looked at her simple clothes and frowned. Maya quietly showed him an invitation from her bag. The guard's eyes widened as he read the name printed on the card. He quickly stepped aside and opened the door for her. Inside the ballroom, music floated through the air as people talked and laughed. Maya moved quietly through the crowd and stood near the back of the room. She watched the stage while holding the old envelope close to her chest. On the stage, Daniel smiled as guests applauded his speech. He thanked everyone for supporting his charity foundation. The crowd cheered as Daniel raised a glass in celebration. Then his eyes landed on Maya, standing alone near the wall. A slow smirk appeared on his face. Without knowing it, he had just chosen the worst person in the room to embarrass. Daniel stepped down from the stage and walked directly toward her. Conversation stopped as people watched him approach. Daniel stopped in front of Maya and looked her up and down. Maya remained calm and met his eyes without speaking. The room grew quiet as Daniel prepared to speak. Daniel folded his arms and stared at Maya in front of the entire ballroom. A small smile spread across his face as guests gathered closer. Daniel pointed toward a table covered with empty glasses. He asked Maya if she had forgotten to finish her cleaning duties. Several guests laughed as the joke spread through the room. Maya lowered her eyes for a moment and held her envelope tighter. Daniel mistook her silence for weakness and stepped even closer. He asked who had allowed her into an event meant for important people. The crowd waited for Maya to defend herself. Instead, she simply looked at Daniel and offered a polite smile. That quiet smile somehow made Daniel even more annoyed. Before he could speak again, an older man across the room suddenly froze. The man's glass nearly slipped from his hand. His eyes remained fixed on Maya. The color slowly drained from his face. A younger executive followed his gaze and suddenly looked alarmed. Soon, several board members were whispering nervously among themselves. Daniel noticed the whispers, but believed they were supporting him. He turned back to Maya and laughed softly. Then he made the biggest mistake of his life. Daniel ordered a waiter to escort Maya out of the building. The waiter took one step forward and then stopped completely. The waiter stared at Maya as if he had seen a ghost. For the first time that night, Maya finally spoke. And the simple question she asked made several executives panic. Maya looked around the room and quietly asked if anyone remembered Robert Johnson. The name hit the room like a sudden storm. Daniel frowned because he had never heard the name before. Several older board members lowered their heads and avoided eye contact. One elderly director slowly stepped forward through the crowd. Tears filled the old man's eyes as he stopped in front of her. The man asked if she was Robert Johnson's daughter. Maya nodded once and held up the envelope. A wave of whispers spread across the ballroom. Daniel glanced around and realized he was the only person who did not understand what was happening. The elderly director turned turned toward Daniel with a look of disbelief. He asked Daniel if he truly had no idea who Maya was. Daniel shook his head and demanded an explanation. The old director slowly reached for the microphone near the stage. The ballroom became so quiet that nobody dared to move. The old man revealed that Daniel's company should have died 20 years ago. He explained that the business had been drowning in debt and close to collapse. Banks refused to help, and investors walked away one after another. Then a stranger appeared with enough money to save everything. That stranger was Maya's father. Gasps echoed through the ballroom as the truth settled over the crowd. Daniel stared at Maya and felt his confidence begin to disappear. But the biggest secret had not been revealed yet. The envelope in Maya's hands contained a truth that could change Daniel's life forever. And in a few moments, everyone in the room would learn exactly what Robert Johnson had left behind. Maya slowly walked toward the stage while hundreds of eyes followed her. The old envelope rested quietly in her hands. Daniel remained frozen as fear slowly replaced his pride. Maya stepped onto the stage and placed the envelope on the podium. The room became completely silent. Maya carefully broke the seal that her father had placed there years ago. She unfolded a letter and began to read. The letter explained that Robert Johnson never wanted credit for saving the company. The letter explained that character mattered more than money. The letter explained that one day his daughter would return to judge the company herself. A nervous murmur spread through the crowd. Then Maya revealed the final page hidden inside the envelope. The document transferred control of the company to her family trust. Several guests gasped as they finally understood the truth. The quiet woman Daniel mocked was the majority owner of his company. Daniel's face turned pale as the crowd looked toward him. The same people who laughed earlier now stepped away from him. Daniel lowered his eyes and remembered every cruel word he had spoken. Many people expected Maya to remove him from his position immediately. Instead, Maya closed the folder and looked directly at Daniel. The room waited for her next words. Then Maya surprised everyone. She announced that she had no interest in revenge. A wave of surprise moved across the ballroom. But Maya was not finished speaking yet. Maya stepped away from the podium and slowly faced the crowd. She told everyone that her father had given her one final mission. She explained that she was sent to discover the true character of the people he had helped. She said that money could hide a person's heart, but power often revealed it. The words struck Daniel harder than any insult ever could. Daniel slowly walked toward the stage with his head lowered. Every step felt heavier than the one before. He stopped in front of Maya and looked directly into her eyes. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Daniel apologized in front of every person in the room. He admitted that success had made him arrogant and blind. The room remained silent as people listened to his confession. When Daniel finished speaking, he handed Maya his resignation letter. Gasps spread through the ballroom once again. Maya looked down at the letter and then back at Daniel. For the first time that night, she smiled warmly. She tore the resignation letter in half. The crowd stared in disbelief. Maya said that a mistake should become a lesson instead of a life sentence. Daniel felt something change inside him as he listened. That night marked the beginning of a very different future. But neither of them knew how much their lives were about to change. And months later, an unexpected meeting would bring them together again. The woman he once mocked would become the person he respected most. 6 months later, Daniel stood outside a small community center on the edge of the city. The expensive suits were gone, and a simple jacket rested on his shoulders. Children laughed inside the building as volunteers carried boxes through the doorway.
Daniel smiled as he helped unload supplies from a delivery truck. A familiar voice suddenly called his name from behind.
Daniel turned and saw Maya standing beside a row of trees. A genuine smile appeared on his face the moment he saw her. Maya noticed that he looked different from the man she met at the gala. The pride that once filled his eyes had been replaced by kindness. The two of them walked through the center as children ran past them. Daniel explained that he had spent months supporting projects his company once ignored. Maya listened quietly as they entered a small library. A framed photograph hanging on the wall suddenly caught Maya's attention. The photograph showed her father smiling beside local families. Tears filled Maya's eyes as she looked at the image. Daniel quietly revealed that the center had been renamed in Robert Johnson's honor. Maya covered her mouth as emotion rushed over her. Daniel admitted that he wanted the world to remember the man who saved them all. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Maya reached for Daniel's hand. Daniel looked at her with surprise and gratitude. Maya told him that her father would have been proud of the man he became. Daniel felt tears gather in his eyes for the second time in his life. Outside the library window, the sun slowly sank below the city skyline, and the woman he once mocked became the greatest blessing of his life.